In the village of Ado, there lived a couple named Elias and Amaka, who had been married for several years. Despite their fervent prayers and tireless efforts, they were unable to conceive a child. Their hearts ached with longing, and the whispers of the villagers only deepened their sorrow. It took them 5 years of crying and praying before they were able to give birth to their only daughter, Peace. After Peace was born, they couldn't stop thanking God for blessing them when all their hopes seemed lost. One beautiful evening, after they had eaten dinner and retired to bed, Peace was lying between the couple. Mr. Elias just kept staring at his little daughter and smiling. "Tell me the reason behind this smile tonight," Amaka asked her husband, also smiling. "Who would ever thought that we would become parents someday? I hope you remember all we went through," Mr. Elias asked Amaka. "Can I ever forget? I was called a barren woman. We were mocked for 5 long years. I got different advice from different friends. Old women called me aside and tried to give me various solutions. Doctors had different things to say each time we went to them. People always pointed at me as I walked past. Even some women in the church mocked me. I was referred to as a fair barren. I almost committed suicide after a fellow woman told me to my face that I was a man, and that was why I couldn't give my husband children." Amaka said all this, and tears rolled down her cheeks. "It's okay. Those days are in the past now. God has given us peace and blessed us with a bundle of joy," Mr. Elias said with a smile. "Her 7th birthday is coming up next week. Our daughter will be 7 years old." Amaka smiled with a smile. They both kept staring at Peace, who was sleeping peacefully. Then Mr. Elias stretched his hand and turned off the light. The next day, Mr. Elias was so tangled up at work that he forgot it was time to bring back Peace from school. It was the weekend, and Mr. Elias was the one who usually brought Peace home during the weekends. It was already 40 minutes after dismissal, but Mr. Elias was not yet back with Peace. Amaka decided to wait a bit longer, thinking it was traffic. After a few more minutes, she became worried and called her husband on the phone. Mr. Elias was shocked that almost an hour had flown by after Peace's school dismissal time. He pleaded with his wife to quickly go and get her because he was still very busy. Amaka left what she was doing immediately and started heading towards Peace school. She was already 55 minutes late, and it would take another 15 minutes to get to Peace school. Amaka entered the bus, and just after a 5-minute drive, she got stuck in traffic. The traffic was so bad that Amaka decided it was best to get out and find a bike, which would be faster since the bike riders always had a way of navigating through traffic. After walking for a while in haste, Amaka stopped a bike rider. As she tried to climb onto the bike, she remembered she had forgotten her purse inside the bus she had entered earlier. Amaka didn't know whether to continue to the school or go back to get her purse. She asked the bike rider to go while she returned to retrieve her purse, because her phone was inside. Amaka started walking back quickly, searching for the bus she had entered earlier. Meanwhile, back at the school, Peace sat outside with some of her classmates, who were also waiting for their parents to come and take them home. Some who had older siblings went home with them. As parents came and took their keys in numbers, Peace sat wondering if her father had forgotten her. "Peace, is your father not coming to pick you today?" one of her classmates asked as she left with her mother. Peace was already tired of waiting. She was so hungry, she hadn't eaten the whole day because she didn't like the food her mother had prepared for her and put in her lunchbox. Peace stood up and decided to go home alone. She left the school with her bag and lunchbox, walking home all alone. After a few minutes of walking, the lunchbox fell from her and rolled into the main road. She tried to pick it up, but a passerby called out to warn her of a speeding car coming towards her. The man driving the car quickly stepped on the brakes, but it was already too late. He had knocked Peace down. The man immediately got out of the car and saw Peace lying almost lifeless and bleeding. Before anyone could come closer, he carried Peace into his car, reversed, and drove off in haste. Meanwhile, as Amaka walked back quickly to where she had alighted from the bus earlier, she noticed some bus drivers turning around to follow another route because of the traffic ahead. She became confused, trying to find the bus she had come down from earlier, but she couldn't identify it. It seemed the bus had turned around with the others. Amaka placed her hand on her head in confusion. She had lost her purse containing her phone. She wanted to call her husband, but she couldn't. She couldn't pay for a bike either because she had no money on her. She decided to trek down to the school and then call her husband using one of the teacher's phones. When she finally got to the school after many minutes of walking under the hot sun, Amaka arrived in front of the school gate, sweating profusely like someone who had just finished a marathon. The environment was very calm, unlike the usual time when there were kids around. Amaka's only hope was that her daughter was inside the gate. Seeing that there was no padlock on the gate, she reached out to open it just as the headmistress came out, holding a padlock to close the gate. "Good afternoon, ma," Amaka greeted, trying to force a smile. "Good afternoon, my dear. Why are you sweating so much?" the headmistress asked, looking at Amaka. "I'm so sorry I'm so late. It seems everyone has already left," Amaka said, looking around. "Yes, it's already 4 p.m. and everyone has gone home. Today is Friday and we close early," the headmistress replied. "What about my daughter?" Amaka asked, fixing her gaze on the headmistress as she locked the gate. "Your daughter? No one is here. Why not call your husband and see if he has her? He usually picks her up on Fridays," the headmistress responded. "I know my husband too well, and he wouldn't ask me to pick up our daughter from school if he had already done so," Amaka said, already having mixed feelings. "Why not call your husband first?" the headmistress suggested. "That's the problem. I can't. I was in a hurry and forgot my purse with my phone inside the bus when there was traffic. My phone and the little money I had on me are all gone. I just wanted to come and pick up my daughter before worrying about my phone." "Then how did you pay the bus driver when you got off?" the headmistress asked. "I had money in my hand already, and oh ma, my phone is not my problem. Where is my daughter?" "Where is Peace?" Amaka asked, already having a bad feeling. "Take my phone and call your husband. Let's see if he picks her up," the headmistress said, dipping her hand into her bag and bringing out her phone. She handed it to Amaka, who immediately dialed Mr. Elias' number. When Mr. Elias picked up the call, Amaka asked him if he had come to take their daughter from school. Mr. Elias told her he had been calling her, but she wasn't picking up. He wanted to know if they were back home, but he couldn't understand what he was hearing, that his princess was missing. He told Amaka that he was coming over immediately. Amaka could feel the tears building up in her eyes. "Where is my daughter?" she asked the headmistress. The headmistress was dumbfounded. She had no answer to Amaka's question. She tried to calm Amaka down and called the teacher in charge of Peace's class, asking her to return to the school as there was a case of a missing child. Amaka didn't know where to start looking for her only daughter. Tears kept rolling down her cheeks as she waited for the teacher in charge of Peace's class. She was restless, just kept looking around, hoping to lay her eyes on Peace. Let's pause a little. If you are in Amaka's shoes, what will you do? The story continues. It took a few minutes, but the teacher finally returned to the school. When asked who had taken Peace, the teacher said Peace had been sitting with her best friend Amira outside waiting for her father. After Amira's mother came to pick up Amira, she didn't see Peace anymore and assumed her father had taken her. The headmistress asked the teacher to call Amira's mother and find out if Peace had followed them. The teacher was scrolling through her contact list, looking for Amira's mother's number when Mr. Elias arrived. A call came into the headmistress' phone. She picked it up. "Hello, madam. I think one of your students had an accident a few minutes ago," a voice said over the phone. The headmistress moved a bit away so she wouldn't be overheard and asked what the child looked like. The description matched Peace. She slowly lowered the phone, not knowing how to tell the couple that their only daughter had been involved in a life-threatening accident. And worse, no one knew where she had been taken by the man who had knocked her down. The headmistress just kept staring at Mr. Elias, who was consoling Amaka as she cried bitterly. Tears almost fell from the headmistress's eyes in confusion and pity for the couple. What kind of temptation is this? Gabriel asked himself as he drove quickly to a distant hospital. He was sweating profusely as he drove at maximum speed. When he got to the hospital, he carried Peace inside. She was already bleeding from her mouth and head. It seemed like Peace's head had first hit the iron in front of his jeep before falling to the ground. The nurses took charge immediately. The doctor was busy with another patient, but when he was informed of the emergency, he quickly came to see the new patient. Gabriel paced around the hospital, unsure of what to do. The doctor was taking quite a while inside the hospital room, and Gabriel grew more anxious by the moment. He didn't want to hear any bad news. When the doctor finally came out, he had a sad look on his face. Gabriel walked up to him, asking how the little girl was doing. The doctor looked at Gabriel and shook his head. "I am sorry, sir. The accident was really fatal. We examined her thoroughly and found that she has internal brain bleeding. We have tried to control it with some drugs and injections, but she needs immediate surgery to survive. Doctor, money won't be a problem. I will sign any document necessary. I don't want that little girl to die, please. Gabriel begged, clasping his hands together. I'm sorry, but we don't have the necessary equipment here. You have to take her somewhere else. I will give you some written notes, the doctor said. Gabriel didn't know his way around the area, and I didn't know which hospital had the equipment needed for the surgery. So he decided to take Peace to his city. He needed her to get better before starting to look for her parents. Gabriel asked the doctor if it was safe to take Peace on a 4 to 5 hour drive to another hospital in his city. The doctor gave his approval, provided some written notes, and administered another injection to this little girl. Back at Peace School, the headmistress softly called out Mr. Elias. Both Mr. Elias and Amaka immediately turned to see why the headmistress was calling them. I just received a call. Your daughter Peace was involved in an accident. My daughter was involved in an accident? Where? Where did it happen? Amaka ran and held the headmistress, asking her impatiently. A few minutes down the street, the headmistress answered. Amaka rushed immediately toward where she was told the accident had occurred, not waiting for the rest. Mr. Elias followed his wife, running towards the scene. When they arrived, they were informed that the man who had knocked Peace down had already taken her, possibly to a hospital. However, no one knew which hospital she had been taken to.